I want to talk about 3 classes I took in high school that I use more today than I do my 4-year college degree and my CPA license. All right, so we're not going to be talking about history, English, algebra, biology, trigonometry, none of that. I want to talk about 3 classes that I took with the intention of just being blow-off classes and never really had any intention of getting anything out of them other than an easy A. Now, as we start talking about this, I want you to think of any classes that you took in high school that you never had any intention of getting anything out of, but years later you found out actually had a pretty profound impact on the rest of your life. So a little about myself. I was in high school from the years of 2007 to 2010. I went to a 4-year school and got a degree in accounting and finance, started working in public accounting while at the same time studying for the CPA exam. I passed that in about 14 months. I've since worked for 2 different companies before leaving corporate America to become a full-time content creator. And even though I'm not working in accounting and finance anymore, I'm still glad that I developed that part of my brain because I use it every single day. So just to be clear, I do not regret going to a 4-year school and getting my degree in accounting and finance. It actually helps me run the business end of the YouTube channel. So I'm not here to bash, 4-year educations and college degrees. As long as you can graduate without a mountain of debt and you can put that degree to work and actually get a job that pays well. Now, the first class might be pretty obvious considering what I do today, and that was a TV and video production class. And the whole reason that I took that class was because I remember sitting in those math and science and history and English classes, looking through the window of the door of the classroom and seeing kids running down the hallways with video cameras, camcorders, and they were taking this TV video production class. And I just thought, that looks like a lot more fun than sitting here staring at a chalkboard. They had free reign to roam the hallways while we were all stuck in class, and even on special occasions, if the weather was nice, they were allowed to go outside to film during school hours. I thought that was pretty cool. Now keep in mind, this was in the year 2009, so the world of cameras, file storage, editing software, editing hardware, all of that was vastly different than it is today. There was no GoPros, there was no drones, there was no 4K cameras, there was no SD cards. Back then, if your flip phone had a camera on it, you were considered lucky, and you'd be lucky to get 1 megapixel, maybe shooting in 480, if it could even do anything other than take pictures, if it could even take video. Now my iPhone 14 Pro is 48 megapixels. It can shoot in 4K, 60 frames per second, and it's got 3 different lenses on it. Back in 2009, we were recording with camcorders, storing the video files on actual tapes, putting them into a machine that would digitize the tapes so that we could plug it into an editing software and edit on a desktop computer. So the reason I'm telling you all this is because what I learned back in 2009 does not apply at all to what I'm doing today. The technology is completely different. I had to relearn everything. But what that class did was plant a seed in my brain. I understood the process. I knew that you could record, store the clips, take it into a software, cut, split, splice, speed up, slow down, add music. I understood the general concept, but I had to relearn everything with today's technology because I hadn't used any of those skills for 15 years. Now, the second class kind of goes hand in hand with the first class. It was a photography and Photoshop class. And again, the reason I took that was because sitting in the classroom, looking out the window, seeing kids running around the hallways with cameras in their hands, looking like they're having a lot more fun than I was. So in this class, we learned about aperture, shutter speed, ISO, camera focus, white balance, all of those detailed camera settings that you need if you're gonna run an expensive camera. And we got to experience a lot with Photoshop as well. And I remember one project in particular that was a lot of fun. It was one where you would take a picture of your head and you would go pick any magazine cover that you thought was interesting, and you would have to take your head and Photoshop it onto the head of the person that was on the magazine cover, and you would have to try to balance all of the shading, the blurring. You would actually even have to manually add in shadows so it looked as naturally as possible. And then at the end, we would do a big show and tell, and everybody in the class would have to present their magazine cover. Some of them were better than others. Some of them, the kids would really get involved in really doing a nice job, and others were just trying to make it as funny as possible. And there was quite a few that got a good laugh. Anyway, how I use that skill today is with creating thumbnails. I mean, I could make the best videos in the world, but if I don't have a good thumbnail that captures somebody's attention and makes them want to click on it, it doesn't matter what the content is because nobody's going to watch it. More recently, I'm relearning my old Photoshop skills in conjunction with the new laser engraver that we just got. In order to have something to engrave, I've got to have a design. And a lot of the times when I'm looking for a design, I'll just surf the web with a few keywords of what I'm looking for. Recently, my buddy just moved into a new house and he wanted something with his last name. He's a deer hunter, so I was looking for something with antlers. So I just got on Google, surfed the web for, monogrammed deer antler sign, and I came up with this. And as you can see, it had somebody else's last name, somebody else's established date. So I had to get into Photoshop, take out all of that person's personal information, plug in my buddy's personal information. And then once I had that file, then I could go in, plug it into the Lightburn software that runs the laser engraver. And so you can just see how Photoshop is becoming critically important in what I'm doing with the laser engraver. And as I mentioned with the thumbnails as well, color grading, all of that good stuff, Photoshop has really helped me out here with running the YouTube channel and with what I'm doing here in the woodshop. Now, before we talk about the next class, I want to talk about today's sponsor, Factor. If you've never heard of Factor before, they make meeting your nutritional goals easier than ever by delivering fresh, never frozen, dietitian-approved meals right to your doorstep. They have a team of gourmet chefs that create each meal using only ingredients with integrity to help you feel your best all day long. Too busy with your end of summer goals to cook, but you still want to make sure that you're eating well? With Factor, you can skip the extra step of running to the grocery store, chopping, cooking, preparing, and cleaning, while still getting the flavor and nutritional value you need. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready within just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat and enjoy, and then get back to crushing your goals. So Lana and I actually do a fair bit of cooking at home, and we eat fairly healthy for the most part. My problem is not with what I'm eating, it's how much I'm eating. So I don't know if you know this about me, but I was an athlete in high school. I played basketball and volleyball, and then I went on to play volleyball at the Division I level in college, and I still eat like an athlete. I still eat like I'm waking up for 6 a.m. lifting sessions and then a 3-hour practice in the evening. And it's just not healthy because, as you know, I use hydraulic cylinders to do a lot of my heavy lifting nowadays. With Factor, it's like having your own personal chef who pre-portions your meals, and when it's gone, you just stop eating. Most meals are around 550 calories, which is perfect if you're trying to lose a little bit of weight, or if you're happy with the weight that you're at, it'll help you from overeating and adding extra pounds. The biggest benefit is not only portion control, but it's convenience. There's a lot of nights where I'm out working on a project until dark. Lana's inside the house with our 3-year-old and 8-month-old, and we're just too busy sometimes to take the time to chop, prepare, cook, and clean up after. And so we'll end up just ordering a pizza or two. But with Factor pre-prepared meals, we can have dinner in under 2 minutes with none of the prep work and none of the cleanup without sacrificing flavor. These things are actually delicious. It is not your average frozen TV dinner from the grocery store. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in trying, head over to factor75.com or use the link in the description and use code HOMETOWN50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. Now, speaking of the laser engraver and some woodworking projects, that brings me to the third and final class that I want to talk about today, and that was woodshop. Yet again, another class that allowed me to get up out of my seat and build something with my hands. And I've got a couple examples here of some stuff that I actually made in high school. One of the projects we did was making these clocks, and another one that we did was this bowl that we had to hand cut on the bandsaw and then put on a lathe and actually turn it and carve out the center. You can see the holes in the back here where it attached to the lathe. But some really cool projects that really was just enough to pique your interest in the subject. We learned things from squaring up rough stock lumber with a joiner, a planer, a table saw, a miter saw, and then like you just saw there, we got to run routers, we got to run a wood lathe, which if you've never turned wood on a lathe before, that is a lot of fun in and of itself. Messy, but a lot of fun. And if you've been following the channel for any length of time, you can see what we're building here in the shop is my own little micro version of that wood shop that I remember from high school. It obviously had a long-term impact on me. Again, one of those things that I didn't use for 15 years. And then as we started developing this shop here, I really just wanted to start getting back into woodworking 15 years later. Now, all three of these classes have a lot in common. The first thing being they were widely regarded by the student body as your blow-off classes. No tests, no studying, no homework, just work on the project at hand during the time allotted in class, and when the bell rang, you got to leave and not think about it again. The second is not one of these three classes were core curriculum classes. They weren't math, science, history, language, any of that. The third commonality between all three of them is they are all still being taught at my high school right now, which I find to be rare because you keep hearing stories about all of these school districts dropping classes like this in favoring more math, more science, more history, and more language, which I don't have a problem with. I think that those are important classes, but I don't think that districts should be dropping these type of classes, because while the math and science is important, things like this make you a more well-rounded individual. And I'm a prime example of that. I could go work tomorrow for an accounting firm, but I could also come out here in the shop and hang shiplap siding on the walls. I can create this workbench top. And skills like that tend to lead into wanting to learn other skills like running equipment, running a tractor, the excavator, a bulldozer, a skid loader, because all of those things tend to run hand in hand. If you're running a sawmill, you need to know how to run a tractor or an excavator to load logs onto the sawmill. So I guess the general theme here is these classes right here take somebody who might be just one-dimensional and being really good at math and makes them a more well-rounded individual. So as I sit here and reflect on this, a lot of things come to mind. I can draw a lot of similarities between 15 years ago, back when I was in high school, to now. The reason I enjoyed these classes so much was because they got me out of my seat, up and on my feet, and creating something instead of just, writing in a notebook, taking notes. And it reminds me a lot of my adult life as well, because I was in that same position 6 months ago. I was stuck inside on a laptop doing accounting work, looking out the window, wishing I was outside doing something with my hands. As an 11th grader, I really didn't have an appreciation for these classes. Like I said, the whole reason I took them was because they were a blow-off class. But as I reflect back now, they really had a meaningful impact on my life. Again, let me know in the comments below if, while I was sitting here spewing all of this, if you had any flashbacks to important moments or important classes in your life that you didn't realize it at the time, but ended up having a profound impact on your life. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, give me a big thumbs up, leave me a comment below, and I hope to see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.